Some movies don't need a complicated plot, expensive special effects, or endless explanations. All they need is a sleek black Pontiac Trans Am, a fearless driver, a runaway bride, and a sheriff so furious he looks like he's about to explode on screen. In 1977, Smokey and the Bandit hit theaters and became the wild road trip that all of America couldn't stop talking about. Directed by legendary stuntman Hal Needham, this high-speed action comedy stars Burt Reynolds as Bandit, Sally Field as Carrie, Jerry Reed as Snowman, and Jackie Gleason as the loudest lawman ever to appear on the big screen, Sheriff Buford T. Justice. The story is simple. Smuggle illegal beer across state lines, outrun the police, and do it all with effortless style. Today, let's count down 12 weird facts about Smokey and the Bandit that you may have never heard before. Number 12. Burt Reynolds called the script the worst he had ever read. When Burt Reynolds first read the script for Smokey and the Bandit,
I didn't come all the way this far to go home with empty pockets.
Oh, I've been meaning to ask you that. How come you're following me?
he bluntly told the director it was the worst script he had ever read. And looking at it, you can understand why. It was not a polished Hollywood screenplay. It was not neatly typed, had no tight structure, and certainly was not filled with sharp dialogue. Instead, it was nothing more than pages of messy handwritten notes on yellow legal pads, packed with scattered ideas about fast cars, high-speed chases, police sirens, and pure chaos. For a major star like Burt Reynolds, it looked more like someone's personal notebook than the foundation for a feature film. He told Hal Needham exactly what he thought, but the surprising part was that Reynolds still agreed to do the movie. It was not because he immediately saw a future blockbuster. It was because the man behind the project was Hal Needham, one of his closest friends and a legendary stuntman who had risked his life many times to help Reynolds shine on screen. That decision was more than a career move. It was an act of trust and loyalty. Ironically, the loose and unfinished script gave the cast and crew the freedom to improvise, experiment, and turn chaos into pure energy. What began as a rough draft that was heavily criticized became one of the biggest box office sensations of 1977, second only to Star Wars. Sometimes, the craziest ideas are exactly where legends begin. Number 11. Eastbound and Down was written in just a few hours. For most movies, finding the perfect theme song can take weeks or even months. But with Smokey and the Bandit, it happened in a way that almost seems unbelievable. Hal Needham had only one request for Jerry Reed: write a song that could capture the spirit of the entire movie. It did not need to be complicated. It just had to let the audience understand what this wild journey was all about the moment they heard it. Jerry Reed barely needed any time to think. He walked away with the idea in his head, and just a few hours later, he returned carrying his guitar. The moment Reed began singing Eastbound and Down, the entire room fell almost completely silent.
The boys are thirsty in Atlanta, and there's beer in Texarkana.
In just a few minutes, the song told the whole story of fearless truckers, a race against time, police officers close behind, and the determination to finish the job no matter what. Hal Needham hardly asked for a single change. He knew immediately that this was exactly what the movie had been missing.
And we'll bring it back no matter what it takes.
According to Needham, he even joked that if Jerry Reed changed a single note, he would never forgive him. It was a funny remark, but it also showed just how perfect he believed the song was from the very first performance.
Eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking.
And time proved him right. Eastbound and Down became far more than just the opening or closing theme. It became the soul of Smokey and the Bandit.
Eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking.
The moment those first guitar notes begin to play, audiences instantly picture the black Pontiac Trans Am racing down the highway, heart-pounding police chases, and the exhilarating feeling of complete freedom. Decades have passed, yet the song remains so closely tied to the film that it is almost impossible to separate the two. Number 10. Jackie Gleason was given complete freedom to create Buford T. Justice. If the rest of the cast was improvising, Jackie Gleason took that idea and ran with it in the most spectacular way possible. From the very first day of filming, Gleason was given almost complete freedom to shape Buford T. justice, as he performed. The script was more of a suggestion than a rule. One of his first requests was that he refused to sit alone in the patrol car. He told Hal Needham that he could not play the character by himself. He needed someone to talk to, yell at, and completely dominate for 2 straight hours. That request led to the creation of Junior, a character who did not even exist in the original story. Gleason invented the entire relationship between the two characters on the spot. Hal Needham later estimated that around 80 to 90% of Buford T. Justice's dialogue was made up during filming. Lines like, "There's no way you could have come from my loins," were never carefully written into the script.
No way that you could come from my loins.
That was simply Gleason reacting in the moment, pushing the character further and further out of control with every take. Some of the film's funniest scenes came entirely from his imagination. The famous diner sequence, where Buford unknowingly sits right next to Bandit without recognizing him, was Gleason's idea. He even directed Burt Reynolds during the scene, telling him to keep wiping his eyes every time the sheriff leaned in close, as if sitting next to the man was physically unbearable. The result was a character so loud, so aggressive, and so outrageously over the top that it is hard to believe he was ever supposed to follow a script. Buford T. Justice never feels like a written character. He feels like a hurricane that somehow got loose. Number 9. Sally Field was almost rejected for not being sexy enough. One of the biggest casting mistakes that almost happened on Smokey and the Bandit was Universal Pictures not wanting Sally Field in the film. Their reason sounds almost unbelievable today. They believed she simply was not glamorous or sexy enough to be the leading lady in a commercial blockbuster. To the studio executives, Sally Field was still best known as a television actress, associated with wholesome, sweet, and somewhat innocent characters. They had a hard time imagining her starring alongside Burt Reynolds in a fast-paced, rebellious comedy filled with high-speed chases. But Burt Reynolds saw something everyone else had overlooked. After watching Field's remarkable performance in Sybil, he became convinced that her talent went far beyond what audiences had seen before. Reynolds did not just suggest her name. He repeatedly told the studio that Sally Field was the actress he wanted more than anyone else. For Sally Field, the offer also came at the perfect moment. After years of being typecast as the sweet girl next door, she was determined to prove she could play characters who were confident, mature, and full of charisma. Smokey and the Bandit gave her the opportunity to break free from that image and reinvent herself on the big screen. The results proved Burt Reynolds was absolutely right. Sally Field shared incredible chemistry with Reynolds and became one of the film's most memorable highlights. Her charm, intelligence, and strong personality made her character far more engaging than the conventional leading lady the studio had originally envisioned. Ironically, the woman once dismissed as not sexy enough helped turn the movie into a massive success and launched a brilliant new chapter in her film career. It was also a reminder that what audiences truly love is sometimes very different from what studio executives think they want. Number 8. Burt Reynolds and Sally Field fell in love during filming. By the time Smokey and the Bandit hit theaters, audiences could already sense that there was something different about the chemistry between Burt Reynolds and Sally Field.
I think we get along and talk and things.
During the making of the film, Reynolds and Field began a real-life relationship that lasted nearly 5 years. It all started on the set. According to both actors, the spark between them appeared almost instantly. Because so many scenes were improvised, their conversations often stopped feeling like scripted dialogue. It was simply two people trying to make each other laugh, impress each other, and see where the moment would take them. For Sally Field, the relationship came at a turning point in her life. Reynolds became one of her biggest supporters. He constantly told her that she was beautiful, talented, and fully capable of carrying a major motion picture. Years later, Field said that his confidence in her changed the way she saw herself, not only as an actress, but also as a woman who belonged at the center of Hollywood. For Reynolds, those feelings ran even deeper. Long after their relationship ended in 1982, he openly admitted that Sally Field was the love of his life. In interviews decades later, he called her the one who got away and expressed genuine regret that they had not stayed together. And in a movie built on speed, noise, and chaos, That real-life romance gave Smokey and the Bandit something no one expected, a genuine heart beneath the roar of the engines. Number 7. Jerry Reed was originally supposed to play the Bandit. Believe it or not, Smokey and the Bandit was never intended to be a major Hollywood movie.
How much money did you say it was?
$80,000.
$80,000.
Director Hal Needham originally envisioned it as a small, low-budget B-movie. It was meant to be made quickly, packed with fast cars, plenty of laughs, and enough Southern charm to draw audiences into theaters. With an initial budget of only about $1 million, the film was a much smaller gamble than the blockbuster it would eventually become. And in that early version, Jerry Reed was the first choice to play the Bandit. It actually made perfect sense. At the time, Reed was already a successful country music star with a distinctive voice, an easygoing smile, effortless charisma, and a natural ability to connect with people. He had exactly the kind of energy Hal Needham wanted for a reckless driver who talked over the CB radio, teased the police, and turned the entire journey into one giant adventure. Then Burt Reynolds entered the picture, and everything changed almost overnight. Reynolds' involvement transformed the project from a small film into something much bigger. Universal saw greater potential. The budget increased, the production expanded, the stunts became more ambitious, and expectations for the movie soared. Once a major star like Reynolds signed on, the lead role naturally shifted to him. Jerry Reed was not pushed out of the movie. Instead, he was given another role, Cletus, Snowman Snow, the loyal, funny truck driver who brought so much heart to the story.
So move over a little bit, good buddy, because the snowman is coming through.
Ironically, the role suited Reed so perfectly that it is hard to imagine anyone else playing it, and in a twist of fate, Reed eventually returned to the role he was originally meant to play. When Burt Reynolds did not return for Smokey and the Bandit Part 3 inches 1983, Jerry Reed finally stepped into the spotlight as the lead. Snowman became the Bandit. Perhaps he was always meant to play that role. It just took 3 movies, one major movie star, and a much larger budget before fate finally brought him there. Number 6. Most of the movie was improvised. If Smokey and the Bandit feels less like a tightly scripted movie and more like a group of friends daring each other to keep the cameras rolling, there is a very good reason for that. According to Sally Field, when filming began, there was barely a complete script for the cast to follow. This was not a case of tweaking a few lines to make them sound more natural, or making small changes to fit a location. The spirit of the entire movie was created right there on the set. Field accepted the role largely because Burt Reynolds personally invited her, and at that point in her career, she wanted to do something fun and lighthearted after playing so many serious roles. Once the cameras started rolling, everything unfolded in a remarkably free and spontaneous way. The actors played off one another, made up dialogue as they went, and many moments that looked like mistakes were kept simply because they felt so genuine. Some lines came out differently than intended. Some laughs were completely real. Some reactions were never written into the script. But those unexpected moments made the film feel even more alive. If a scene got a laugh, they kept it. If it did not work, they simply got back in the car and tried again. The chaos became so overwhelming that the script supervisor could barely keep up with all the changes. Trying to record every line, every variation, and every improvised moment was like trying to make a tornado stand still. Ironically, that seemingly unprofessional approach became the heart and soul of the movie. The fast pace, the natural dialogue, and the effortless chemistry between Burt Reynolds, Sally Field, and the rest of the cast made it feel as if they were genuinely enjoying the chase. And that is exactly what pulled audiences in, making them feel like they were riding in the car right alongside them, racing down the highway through blaring police sirens and jokes that no one saw coming. Number 5. The movie turned the Pontiac Trans Am into an American icon. Not many movies have the power to change an entire car market, but Smokey and the Bandit did exactly that. Before 1977, the Pontiac Trans Am was simply a popular sports car with a loyal following. It was fast, powerful, and stylish, but it was still just one of many performance cars on the market. Everything changed when the movie hit theaters. With its glossy black paint, bold gold trim, and unforgettable high-speed chase scenes, the Trans Am practically stole the spotlight. Audiences did not just remember the Bandit, they remembered the car he drove. Almost overnight, the Trans Am evolved from a sports car into a symbol of freedom, rebellion, and the American spirit. The impact quickly showed up in the sales numbers. During the year the movie was released, Pontiac sold about 68,000 Trans Ams. Just 2 years later, sales had skyrocketed to more than 117,000 units. Dealerships across the country struggled to keep them in stock, especially the black and gold version that looked just like the one in the film. Customers were not simply buying a car, they wanted to own the Bandit's car. Pontiac understood exactly what had created the craze. The company knew the Trans Am's success had become closely tied to Burt Reynolds' image. According to numerous accounts, Pontiac's president even promised to give Reynolds a brand new Trans Am every year as a thank you for turning the car into a legend. Although that tradition ended when the executive retired, the film's impact never faded. Even today, the moment people see a black and gold Trans Am, many of them think of Smokey and the Bandit before they think of Pontiac itself. Number 4. The famous bridge jump nearly destroyed the Trans Am. There is one scene in Smokey and the Bandit that almost every fan remembers. It is the moment when the black Pontiac Trans Am launches off the edge of a broken bridge, soars through the air, and slams back onto the road with the roar of its engine. The sequence lasts only a few seconds, but creating it required the filmmakers to take an enormous risk. Director Hal Needham, already a legend in the stunt world, knew this was a stunt with almost no room for error. The gap between the two ends of the bridge was simply too wide, and the Trans Am was far too heavy to make the jump easily. A single miscalculation could have sent the car crashing straight into the river, ruining the stunt completely. To improve the odds, the crew modified the car in several ways. A liquid-fueled rocket booster was secretly mounted to the rear of the Trans Am to provide extra thrust. Several components were also altered to reduce weight and help the car stay balanced while airborne. Once every calculation had been made, there was nothing left to do but step back and hope everything worked exactly as planned. The Trans Am successfully cleared the gap, but the landing was so violent that the car's frame was badly twisted and the drivetrain was completely destroyed. The vehicle was never usable again. Its sacrifice, however, gave audiences one of the most iconic stunt sequences in movie history. It was not just the jump that sold the film. It became the image that defined Smokey and the Bandit, a movie willing to risk everything for one unforgettable moment. And perhaps that is why, more than 4 decades later, the sight of the black Trans Am flying through the air still leaves audiences in awe every time they watch it. Number 3. Smuggling Coors beer was a real thing in 1977. Here is something many modern audiences do not realize about Smokey and the Bandit. The entire premise of the movie was based on something that actually happened all the time. In 1977, Coors beer was almost legendary to people living in the eastern United States. It was not because the beer was illegal. The problem was that Coors distributed its products only in a limited number of western states. Because the beer was not pasteurized and contained no preservatives, it had to remain refrigerated from the brewery in Colorado all the way to the customer. For that reason, Coors was sold in only about 11 western states and did not pursue distribution licenses in much of the rest of the country.
The problem is that Coors beer, you take that east of Texas, and that's bootlegging.
That limited availability created a unique market. In many eastern states, people simply could not buy Coors at local stores, no matter how much money they had. As a result, many drivers traveled thousands of miles to the west, loaded their cars or trucks with cases of Coors, and secretly brought them back home. Since the beer was not legally distributed in many of those states, transporting large quantities could violate alcohol distribution and tax regulations, causing those trips to be treated as bootlegging operations. Interestingly, director Hal Needham found inspiration in a real-life incident. While filming Gator in Georgia, one of the crew members brought several cases of Coors from California. Before long, the beer kept disappearing from the hotel refrigerator. Needham eventually discovered that a hotel employee had been secretly taking the beer home for her boyfriend because Coors was almost impossible to buy in that area. That moment sparked an entire movie idea. Add 2 fearless drivers, a black Pontiac Trans Am, a truck full of Coors beer, and dozens of police cars in hot pursuit, and Smokey and the Bandit was born. As it turns out, the wild adventure that seemed too crazy to be real was inspired by a story that actually happened. Number 2. Smokey and the Bandit sparked America's CB radio craze. Smokey and the Bandit did not just change what people drove, it changed the way they talked. Before the movie, CB radios were mostly tools used by truck drivers. They were practical devices that helped long-haul drivers coordinate traffic, report road conditions, and warn each other about where police officers were hiding. After Smokey and the Bandit, suddenly everyone wanted a CB radio and a handle of their own.
It's me they're after. They don't even know clear snow exists.
Oh, they don't. Well, I tell you what we're gonna do.
The CB radio craze had already begun to grow after the 1973 oil crisis. But Smokey and the Bandit poured high-octane fuel onto the fire. Along with the radios came an entirely new language. 104. What's your location? Smokey, you've got a bear in the air. People who had never been within 50 feet of a semi-truck suddenly talked like outlaw truckers during their morning commute. Everyone picked a radio handle. Everyone wanted to sound like they belonged to something bigger than rush hour traffic. Accountants drove through quiet suburban neighborhoods, calling themselves Nighthawk, with a level of confidence they had absolutely not earned. The craze spread throughout American pop culture. Songs like Convoy shot to the top of the music charts. A hit movie inspired by the CB phenomenon followed in 1978. Television shows also began adopting the slang. For a few loud, chaotic years, America decided that the best way to connect with complete strangers was by shouting into a CB radio mounted on the dashboard while cruising down the highway at 70 miles an hour. Number 1. The crew nearly got arrested during filming. Most movies try to look realistic. Smokey and the Bandit was so realistic that real law enforcement officers tried to shut down filming more than once. The production seemed to attract real-life trouble wherever it went because Hal Needham refused to fake anything. He wanted real speed, real highways, and real chaos. The only problem was that not everyone had been told a movie was being filmed. During one high-speed chase on a public highway, the crew was filming at full speed when a real police officer, completely unaware that a movie was in production, drove straight into the middle of the action. The entire production came to a halt, as the crew scrambled to convince a very suspicious officer that this was a legitimate Hollywood film shoot with valid permits and proper paperwork. Meanwhile, a group of stunt drivers stood beside a row of muscle cars parked along the highway, trying their best to look innocent, which, if you have ever met a stunt driver, is probably not their greatest talent. Eventually, the officer accepted the explanation, and no one ended up in handcuffs. Unfortunately, the patrol car, complete with flashing lights, had already driven right through the shot, ruining the entire scene. The footage had to be thrown away, and the sequence was filmed all over again. And that was not even the only encounter. Throughout production, local residents repeatedly called the police to report reckless drivers, high-speed chases, and what they believed were actual crimes taking place on public roads. Dispatchers received complaints about a black Trans Am tearing through town as if it had somewhere incredibly important to be. And to be fair, it did. The destination just happened to be a movie set rather than the scene of a major crime. Needham later joked that the crew probably triggered more real police pursuits than the number of fake ones they filmed. For a movie called Smokey and the Bandit, accidentally outrunning real law enforcement may have been the most fitting behind-the-scenes story of them all. And that wraps up our 12 most fascinating facts behind Smokey and the Bandit. A movie that many people once believed was nothing more than a reckless gamble by Hollywood. It didn't have a complicated story, it didn't rely on expensive special effects, and its production faced one challenge after another. Yet its bold spirit, unforgettable humor, and love of freedom turned it into one of the biggest box office hits of 1977 and a timeless classic that audiences have continued to enjoy for decades. Which of these 12 facts surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.